I can do is if we have a problem at all.
Let's go. We don't have much time.
No, that's a separate house.
There's a lily pad.
It's a big house that was rented.
Steve's always been my instructor.
I know.
Even Lonnie Child.
Cuando la compraron, ya estaba convertido como una casita. Pero también
In the back today, huh?
I see better back here.
alfombra, de que sí le hace, pero en tu casa no creo que haga conmigo para que la vea. Yo fui ahí por la zona,
Oh, no, why is nappy?
porque no me acuerdo, entre el río y el Super Five y las plazas de Washington.
No, he doesn't know very much. You saw it? No.
I'm Marty.
So somebody back there? Yeah.
No. Do you really?
When did you do that message?
7 o'clock this morning. But I'm gonna be over here.
Yo estoy contando como 125.
Which message? 165.
Oh, the can't be here today.
Oh, I got it.
You figured
Porque
Just want to hypnotize me and feel no.
We weren't trying to see you hypnotized. You bark.
Want to make me break?
ya no la vendía.
Let's see.
Anybody have any stories they want to tell?
Ya,
let's see, then you think of it.
More stories?
Funny ones. We like to laugh, don't we?
You know, Marty is nice, Marty, and her not wanting to eat an Amy, or for some reason or other, about, I don't know, 7 o'clock or so, I brush my teeth, and then if you kind of want to go to hospital or something, and then I say, no, a salad will do it, and the tea started, he hypnotized me too, with Marty's. No, I don't.
Marty probably didn't even think of it. Yeah. She wasn't referring to you. She probably refused that suggestion. Did you tell her?
She went out.
I'm gonna show
She
him.
hasn't been to work since.
She died of food poisoning too much. That's pretty vivid, isn't it?
Si quieres llamo,
How amazing
que me voy a hacer unas cuantas cosas y luego
the process to be able to program it
Yeah, well,
and still do it.
you know, that's the real problem is, this is quite obvious, I could give you a seminar on health testing, but you know, the body does break down all those foods and eventually forces it through them. And you only get as little as 10% sometimes of the nutrients in the food because of the way you eat it. And that's a real problem because you don't get the nutrients, so you eat more. And you don't get the nutrients, and so you eat more. And it's a vicious circle. It gets worse and worse and worse. The more you eat, the worse it gets until you're so unhealthy. Like, what's that guy's name? Walter, or whatever his name was, 1,000 pounds or something. His problem was, the guy whose problem was, his stomach was never empty.
3,000. He was
Is that what it was?
He was
He was,
The washer, dryer, and refrigerator.
anyway, and that was his problem. His stomach was never empty. He was eating like 20 or 30 Big Macs a day, which is, by the way, probably the worst thing you can eat.
Or however,
That
Sam, you know,
put them
Lori
over
might
the top
want
for
to determine
50
the no warranty.
She probably bought 10 million. Anyway.
And my client attorneys,
Should we get this thing started today?
she can't find someone.
Okay. Gosh, I already lost one of my audience. I said,
I don't like the hot
feels the sea breeze.
Right back here with these guys.
Take mine, mine's warm. I warmed it up.
Today, we're gonna talk about goals, time management, and Last but not least, we're gonna learn about taking action. But let's talk about goals for a minute. How many of you set goals? How many of you have taken a goal-setting class before? Okay, we're not gonna spend a lot of time on goals, but I do wanna tell you a little story. I saw a tape by the California Association of Realtors, videotape, and it pictures this guy, so use your imagination if you can, and picture this guy walking through this cornfield. And all you see is the corn rustling, because it's so tall. Remember how tall corn is. And he's walking through this cornfield, and you see the corn rustling. Pretty soon he comes to this opening. And he looks around, and you look at him, and he's wearing a three-piece suit. He's carrying a briefcase out in the middle of this cornfield. And he's in this opening, and he looks around, and he doesn't like it, so he turns and goes back in the cornfield. And he wanders around in the cornfield for a while, and you can see him. And he comes out another side, and there's another opening over here, and he comes out over here. And the commentator says, and this is the way the video starts, the commentator says, if you have goals to nowhere, that's exactly where you will go.
To nowhere.
Nowhere. So picture yourselves, if you don't have any goals, yeah, picture yourselves, if you have no goals, picture yourselves wandering around in that cornfield, making your own little maze, wondering, get the tongue there, making your own little maze, and wandering around where you're going, until you get to the opening, and then you still don't know where you're going, because you have no goals. That's what we're talking about today. We want to talk about goals and goal setting. Just grab any chair and bring it over. Okay, so that's what we want to talk about is goals. How do you set goals? Why do you set goals? What are your goals? First off, let's start out with why set goals? Because you want to go someplace. When I fly an airplane, I get in the airplane and I crank it up and I just take off flying away, going. And I have nowhere to go. I just kind of fly around. And then if I see a landing strip, I land there. Is that how you guys want to fly in a commercial airline? Well, what if you run out of gas, or if your engine goes out or something? Or, there are millions of different problems that can come up when you're flying. Well, when I fly cross country, I don't just get in and crank it up and go. First I walk around the airplane, and then I have to check the fuel to make sure there are no impurities in the fuel. And make sure as I walk around that there's nothing wrong with the plane, no new dents in the wings and no nicks in the propeller and all kinds of things. I have to look at everything. Make sure there are no bird droppings on it or anything like that. Okay? And I'll tell you why, because those things are the things that will cause an accident later on. And I don't want an accident, but that's not even the beginning. You see, before I even get to my airplane, if I'm going cross country, I have to file a flight plan. And that flight plan has to state where I'm going, the final destination. It has to state how I'm going to get there, by which route, and it's going to state how much fuel that I'm going to use. Now, why is that? Why would you suppose I'd put how much fuel I'm going to use?
Know if you're gonna get there or not.
Yeah, because I might get 90% of the way there and run out of gas, and if I'm over a lake or over a mountain ridge or something, I could have a real problem landing that plane. I could do it on the road. I've been taught to do that in the farmer's field. It's not fun, it's not comfortable, but it can be done. And I don't want to do it. I want to get to my destination. And so I file this flight plan, but in order to do that, I have to figure out where I'm going and what I'm going to do. But the very first thing, and the most important thing you can do in filing a flight plan is figure out where you're going. If I was going to fly from here to Las Vegas, I'd have to know that I was going to land in McCarran Field. If I wasn't going to land in McCarran Field, there are a couple of smaller strips around there that I could land in, but I'd have to know which one I was going to land in. And the reason is because some planes will make it all the way there, but some won't. And if they won't make it all the way to Las Vegas, then I have to know if there's an airstrip somewhere between here and Vegas that I can refuel at. Stop at, refuel, and go on. And I have to be able to compute the approximate miles that I'm going to get on a tank of gas so that I know that I'm going to get there. Well, that's what we want to do today. Is we want to talk about your goals. We want to talk about what happens when you set your goals. Let me talk to you about the verbiage of goals. First off, now that you know where you're going. Of course you don't, because we haven't talked about that, but we will later on in the last part of this session. But once you know where you're going, you have to decide what path it is that's going to get you there. And if it's a particular path in real estate, for instance, if you want to take 20 listings this next year, 1993, I don't know what your goal is. Do you have a goal in that on there? Is that pretty close, or is that a long way off? 50?
No,
About right? Okay. So if you want to take 20 listings, good marketable listings in the next year, you have to know what it's going to take to get you those 20 listings. Okay, I got an idea. Let's go out to the fights on Friday night, and let's go to dinner with our wife on Saturday night, and let's spend Sunday all day sitting around watching football. And when Monday morning rolls around, what should we do on Monday? Oh, I'm going to sleep in because I've had such a tough day on Sunday. And when I sleep in, of course, I'm going to have a tough day Monday because, you know, the more you sleep, the worse you feel. You get a little bit groggy, and so you sleep in until 8 or 9 o'clock, or 10 o'clock, 11, whatever. And gosh, you feel like breakfast because you feel so rotten, you think you need some energy, so you eat some breakfast. Pretty soon your whole day Monday's shot, and you haven't gone to the office, and Vince is wondering if you're still alive. Is that going to get you those 20 listings?
No.
Thanks, Stephen. It's not, is it? It's not going to give you those 20 listings. You have to know what it's going to take, and that's one thing that you can learn from Vince. Now, we can talk about some things. Realtors generally think that it takes about 1,000 phone calls to get one sale. Is that correct here? Would that be about right? So if you've made 1,000 phone calls, then you're due a sale. And then what happens then is, what you need to do is go out and do your knocking on doors or whatever, and talk to people and say, "Hi, I'm Steve Nieves from C21, and I'm out looking for listings today. And by the way, I'm in a real hurry, and I know it's a real numbers game here. And so just tell me yes or just tell me no, but please hurry because I've got to get my 1,000 calls." Okay, because you got to make those 1,000. It doesn't matter. Now, you might need to be a little bit more professional. Give them a little information because they might be the one. And if you're not professional enough, and if you don't give them enough information, that one might be gone, and there might be 2,000 this time. So that's where training from Vince comes in, and you have to learn the things to say that are going to get you those listings. But you also have to make the calls. You have to make those 1,000 calls. Well, so now you've got your goal out here. 20 years from now. Do you have a goal 20 years from now? Anybody have a 20-year goal? You do. What's your 20-year goal?
Be alive.
Really?
Okay, that's good though. That's good. How old will you be 20 years from now?
A lot older than I am now.
I don't know. I can't remember how old I am now. Okay, I can remember. I'm going to tell you a story about my father. My father and mother, my dad retired from teaching school and he started selling real estate. That's how I got into business. And when he started selling real estate, he did real well. He was really good. But he didn't do homes, he did farms and ranches in Utah. And he did real well because he was raised as a farmer and he knew the language, he could talk to these people, but he also knew a couple other things. That was hard work and goal setting. And he set these goals every year that he would take a certain number of listings and a certain number of marketable listings, and he always had a lot of them that weren't marketable. But he always had some that he kept in his hip pocket, as we say sometimes, that we're not supposed to do, that were marketable listings. And he always did real well. But he sold real estate for about 10 years, and then he did something that was interesting. He went on a mission for the Mormon Church. I don't know if you know anything about that, but young people and old people do that, and they go out and teach people about Mormonism. Well, they did that. Well, that was something he'd wanted to do since when? Since he was 20 years old. But he grew up, and he couldn't go when he was 20 years old because of the Second World War. And because of that, he didn't get a chance to go, so he wanted to go when he was old. Well, that was his goal for a long time. And when he got through with that goal, what happened to my father?
Died.
He did. Because he had done what he wanted to do in life. He got cancer and he died. Now, how many of us are going to reach our goal and then die? Most of us are gonna reach our goal and then die. But let's hope that we reach a lot of goals in between then and now that make us happy, so that when we do finally die, we don't die with any regrets.
You shouldn't set goals then.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let's not set goals. Because if we do set goals, then we're gonna die, right?
That's what you said.
No, you just have to meet them and die. You can set goals, but don't meet them.
Okay, I'm
Don't
gonna,
meet him? Okay.
You're gonna die.
I think I've lost something here. What do you think?
Lost control.
It all started with Don.
Okay. Setting goals that, did you really believe what you just told me?
Yes. We all thought so.
No.
You did?
Yes.
She never did.
Okay, well, that's because she has a goal to live forever, maybe.
Die anyway.
Anyway, you need to set goals, but you need to map out a strategy from that goal backwards to today, so that you can say, this is what path it will take to get there. If it takes 1,000 phone calls to get a listing that's gonna sell, and you're gonna make the money, if it takes that many phone calls, then you have to decide to make those 1,000 phone calls. But hey, I don't know anybody physically capable of making 1,000 phone calls in an hour. And that's about how long your commitment's gonna last, is about an hour. As long as you're excited about it, you're gonna do it. Well, after about an hour's worth of phone calls, your excitement's gone. You know, hi, this is hi, I'm a realtor. Hi, I'm a, you know, before you even get people on the phone, sometimes they hang up, especially in the middle of the day. Oh, this is a salesperson, you know, and they hang up on it at home. Especially at 6 o'clock in the evening when I'm sitting down for dinner. First thing when the phone rings, I say it's for my daughter. If it's not for her, I know it's a salesperson. And I don't deal well with that. Okay, and so after about an hour, your excitement's gone, it's shot. And then at the end of an hour, you're saying, well, okay, I made my 1,000 phone calls. Well, you haven't made your 1,000 phone calls, so you haven't got your listing. So you got to go through those numbers. Now, some people, they'll get the listing on the first phone call, and then they've still got another 2,000 to go before they get a second listing to sell. Because it's all in the numbers, isn't it? And it happens that way. Now, they may get 3 listings to sell, and then they've got 3,000 phone calls they got to make. Okay? But approximately that's it. Now, some people are better, and there are ways to improve your odds. But the most important thing to remember is that you do have to have that strategy. You have to remember that if you can't make those 1,000 phone calls today, you've got to make a certain number of phone calls every day to get that number of listings. Figure this out. Anybody have a calculator? You got a calculator? Figure this out. 21 working days a month times 12 is how many?
252.
252 working days a year, approximately. Now, most realtors work more than that, but we're going to use this. Okay, 252 working days a year, and divide that into 2,000. Excuse me, no, into 1,000. 0.252. So if you make 2.52 calls per day, per working day, you'll probably get 1 listing that sells in a year. Does that help? Multiply that times 20. 2.52 times 20, because you want to get 20 listings. 5.0. That's not
wrong.
quite right. That's not quite right.
First one's wrong.
252 is not the right number.
No, the first one's wrong.
252 into 1,000 has to be more than 3. Right?
That's right. It does.
Yeah, right.
Somebody have another calculator. Somebody have another calculator.
It's the user.
Okay, that's
No, I input it when told.
20 listings, okay? 20 listings. Who's got the calculator that works? How many? 3.9. Okay, so we got 3.9 phone calls per day will get you 1 listing. Now multiply that times 20. 79.3. If you want to get 20 marketable listings this year,
8 times 39 is 79.
yeah, that's about 4 times 20.
About
That's about right.
78.
And that's how many days a week? That's a 6-day week?
That's only a 5-day week. Now you can change that by working 6 days a week. But if you're only gonna work 5 days a week, if you're gonna take 2 days off, you better make 80 phone calls a day to get 20 listings.
This is assuming that the only way you can get a listing is by phone.
That's right, that's right. Now, remember, there are referrals, there are other 1,000 different other ways to get them. But if you're brand new in the business, you don't know anybody, you just moved to town,
That's me.
that's you, Steve, right? You've got to, and if you want to make a decent living, okay, now let's figure out, let's take 20 listings. How much is the average salesperson's commission per listing? Could you guess that off the top of your head?
The average sales, like an
They're
average-
split.
The average gross commission is about, let's say, about $5,000.
Okay, so you're at $5,000. Okay, you're at $5,000 per sale.
Per site, right.
Now that's
Well, if you buy,
that's prior to they're split with you, right?
right,
Okay. Okay. So
yeah.
let's say, and just for ease here, we'll say somebody's on a 50% split. I don't know what your splits are like. Okay, but we'll use 50%. Okay. So if you're on a 50% split, then that would mean $2,500. Now we'll forget about C21 for now, but you can figure this out later on your own, what their continuing fee is. But so it's going to be $2,500. Now, what would be a good annual income for a realtor?
100,000.
What was, okay, what could you live with?
How about 60?
How about 100,000?
That's all?
How much can you live on, Steve?
25.
You can live on 25,000?
25,000?
Poverty.
Oh, What is that, putting your wife and kids on the street or
60,000.
what?
She's good looking.
That's him's 25, his wife's 50, and the kids are each 10. He's got
Yeah.
$50,000?
Yeah.
Can
60.
everybody live on
60.
50,000? No, I mean, it's not fun, but it's okay.
60 maintenance,
Okay, 60. Okay,
round it up.
$60,000 is what you want to make, and you've got $2,500 per sale. What's 2,500 into 60,000? You have your calculator, don't you? Will you figure that for me?
24.
24. That means you've got to get 24 sales. Okay, 24 sales. Now, most of those are going to come from listings, aren't they?
I think so, yes.
About what percent? Could you guess? 80?
Probably 70 to 80%.
Okay, so take 80% of 24. What's that, 20?
19.
19. Almost 20. So, bottom line, if you want to make a decent living, right back to what he said, you got to get 20 listings. And if you're going to get 20 listings and you're new in the business and you want to make a decent living, what are you going to have to do?
80 calls a day
80 calls a day
for 6-day period.
for a 5-day work period. Okay, sir.
I'm confused a bit.
Okay.
If you're looking for 24 sales to make your 60,000, you gotta have more than 20 listings if you're gonna do 80%. Don't you?
He's just saying that.
4 of your sales will probably come from buyers, is what we're saying. Does that help?
Okay, that helps.
Okay. But 20 of them are going to have to be listings. You're going to have to go out and get the listing, and you're going to have to service that listing. But you know what? Servicing a listing really is a lot of fun, and it's profitable, as you can see here. But what happens when you get a listing? You go out and you celebrate, don't you? You take a couple hours off. No, you don't. You feel so good that you got a listing that you come back in here and you make some more phone calls. Because you say, I'm pumped, I'm feeling good, I did what was right, and it worked. And I got up and I made my phone calls, and I came to the office, I made my phone calls to the office, and by golly, it paid off, just like he said it would. I feel good, I'm going to go back and make some more phone calls because it pays off. So what do then? You make your 80 calls a day. The better you feel, the more you do. Well, what happens though when you feel rotten? I mean, you've made your 80 calls for 3 days now and you haven't even got an appointment. Oh, God, Vince, I feel rotten. Then what? Vince says, well, go over and make some phone calls. Right? And why does he say that? Because the only way you're gonna feel any better is by succeeding. And when you succeed, then you'll feel better, you'll make your money, and you'll feel great. That's what it's all about. How many of you realize that you're in business for yourself? That you're in a profit and loss situation? That you are independent contractors, are you not? Each one of you? And at the end of each quarter, you have to file taxes with the IRS. And you have to say, I made X number of dollars. You do your profit and loss, and if you don't have any profit, it's all loss, it's all red ink, then it gets kind of ugly, doesn't it? So you've got to make your phone calls. That makes it kind of tough, doesn't it, to make 80 calls a day? So, wait a minute. 80 calls a day is not bad. Because you're going to work 8 to 10 hours a day, right? How many of you work less than 8 hours a day? Okay. How many phone calls can you make in an hour?
My type takes about 4 or 5.
I had a guy in one of my offices who barely made one in an hour. He'd talk forever. But I think that you can make 8 to 10 calls in an hour.
That's about right.
Well, if a bunch of them hang up, you could really.
That's right.
Oh, that's long.
That's
Yeah.
right. And some of them are going to hang up on you. And some of them are not even going to be home. And some of them are going to be answering machines. You see, those count on your 80 calls a day. Whether you actually make contact with somebody or not, that's not part of the numbers. Remember, the numbers is 1,000 calls a day. So. But you got to make those 80 calls, don't you, Dennis?
Yes.
If you don't make those 80 calls, you may as well be selling shoes. See? Because selling shoes, it's easy because you stand in the mall and somebody comes in and says, I really like those. You go, great.
Adeline, is that right?
Yeah. No, they swap shit with that.
You work there? Okay? But if you want to make some real good money, make your 80 calls. And if you want to make better money, do the things that we've talked about in all these other seminars. And that will improve the odds so that you don't have to make 80 to make 60,000. To make 60,000, you're making maybe 40. If you improve your odds by referrals and all the other methods that there are, so you can make more money. Now that's goals. Now keep in mind that every day you've got to do that. That's something you have to do every day. Now, if there's something else that you want to do 20 years from now, or 10 years, or 5 years from now, what you need to do is you need to figure out what that goal is that's 5 or 10 years down the road, and you need to figure out exactly what it is and what path it is going to take to get you there. My wife's goal is to move to Utah. I'm not going with her. I love her, but we're still here, aren't we? She's had that goal for about 3 years.
You're behind me.
We've been here about 4. Right? Anyway, she wants to go back. She misses her mom and all that. She's not going back without me, and I'm not going. So guess what? Somebody else's goals are more important than her goals right now. Now I can do my job anyway. I can do it here. I can do it there. Okay. But I like it here. I like to be able to ride my bike and stuff like that. So I just maintain my goals right here. And she can fly back to Utah and see her mother anytime she wants. Right. Okay. And she does a lot.
You would get a stationary bike.
I could. I don't want it. My goals are more. Okay. Okay. That's goals. Now, let's talk about the office goals. We have an office goal here. We have an office goal set by office management, a goal that it takes to keep the office going. And each one of you has responsibilities in this goal. There's a secretary, there's phones, there's a nice office, there's nice desks and chairs and a computer and all these other bills, electric bills, and all these other things that have to be paid. And in order to reach the goal that Vince has set up, is to maintain that and maintain a decent standard of living and pay the secretary and all these other bills, he has to have, how many dollars was that again, do you remember? 1 point.
Last year's goals are right there on the wall, so, I mean, if this, we're not reaching.
okay?
But I would think it'd be fair to say after the year we've come through that it would be fair to use those as next year's goals, so 1.650 million gross.
1.650 gross dollars into the office. Okay, now, if Vince wants to meet this goal, he's gotta have salespeople who wanna make some goals too, and they wanna be able to reach those goals. So help me out and divide this out by, how many people are here today? Do you sell or do you just manage?
Yeah, so.
You sell. One,
At
two,
1.6 I wouldn't have to say.
but to get there, you.
Match your goals.
Okay, so let's include him, because we've got some other agents that produce that aren't here, so we'll include him. 1, 2, 3,
Just use
4,
30.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Use 30?
Just use 30, because that'll take the ones that aren't here too.
You wanna use
The
30?
full-timers.
Okay. Divide that for me, will you, by 30, at 1.65?
55,000.
55,000? Is that right?
I calculated no work.
55,000, and where were we a few minutes ago?
Is that right?
That doesn't seem
That
right.
seems too low.
No, that's right.
That's right.
55,000. That's easy.
That's easy.
Wow.
Vince is saying,
Let's raise it.
let's change the goal, make it 7 million. Make these guys do some work. Okay, that's not so bad. You only have to do 55,000, but remember, wait a minute, that's 55,000 gross. So what does that mean? Now, assuming you're on 50 splits, I don't know what your splits are, and it doesn't matter. But assuming you're on a 50 split, half of that is what? 25, 27, 50. 27.5. That's all you're gonna make to make Vince's goal. That's easy. How many listings did that take? That's less than half of this. So you could do it with only 10 listings. You could help Vince make his goal with only 10 listings.
We're gonna live on 27.5.
You guys wanna live on 60,000. Okay. So all you've gotta do then is double Vince's goal. And Vince is gonna love you guys to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could buy a new car. A new seat. Okay, does that help? Does that help? Now, one thing that I've always had a problem with, and that is, when I owned my own office, I had a problem making goals for other people. Now, all I've done is I've given you a demonstration here of what it takes to make X number of dollars. But what you need to do, each one of you, is you need to sit down and say to yourself, is that my goal? Is that what I want to do? And if that's not what you want to do, what is it? Maybe your goal is not 20 listings or 60,000. Maybe it's 100,000. Maybe it's 150,000. And if that's the case, then you need to decide what it's going to take to get you there. You're going to have to work 6 days a week, aren't you, Vince? And you're going to have to make more phone calls. And it's going to have to come together by your own labor and time and expertise. But this is just a demonstration, and so you can use it on your own. Sit down on your own when you get through here sometime today, or at least